Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Welcome back, Maverick family. Welcome, new viewers from all over planet Earth. Great to have everyone here tonight. Another landmark news day. What can I say? We're going to actually get caught up on some stuff tonight. Material that we haven't maybe touched on in the last couple of days. It's Sunday. You could view it as the end of a week, or maybe the beginning of a week, or maybe just the end of a weekend, or a day of rest, a day of reflection, perhaps. And we're going to reflect on this new poll that has come out, in which Justin Trudeau has been ranked Canada's worst prime minister in more than half a century. Yeah, the Canadian people have spoken. So we'll certainly discuss it. We will show you clips, sound bites from people over the past few years to again review why JT is so, and I hate to use the word, but I'm going to say it, hated. He's hated by a record number of people, to the point where he has now been selected as Canada's worst prime minister. Joe Biden isn't doing much better. A new poll shows that he has the second lowest approval rating of any president ever. So we'll get into that too. And through the discussion, I think we're going to probably venture into some areas of, some political discussion on political labels and what Justin Trudeau is. Is he a communist or is he a fascist? Views vary. And we'll run that footage and have a discussion on that, as well of the swarming, the angry crowd that greeted Justin Trudeau this week in Belleville. That video still getting a lot of attention, a lot of discussion. So stay with me. We'll get things cranked up here on this Sunday night. What is the date today? July 23rd, 2023. Lots more to come. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. So what's this poll all about? Well, Justin Trudeau has been ranked now as Canada's least liked prime minister in 55 years. It's a new opinion poll. It also lists who the favorites of the Canadian people are. But Trudeau has now been voted Canada's worst prime minister in 55 years. 3 out of 10 people surveyed in this new public opinion poll from a research company, which was published on Friday. Sorry, I was going to get to it yesterday, but we weren't able to because we weren't broadcasting. Definitely got to talk about it today. But it is found that 3 in 10 have selected, 30% selected JT as the worst prime minister. And so that puts him into the number one slot because the rest of the survey, the opinion is spread out among all of the other prime ministers throughout history. So this online survey had 1,000 people across Canada surveyed, and they asked them who they thought the nation's best and worst prime ministers of the last 55 years were. And it has a margin of error, which measures sample variability of plus or minus 3.1 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. So it's pretty accurate. So JT ranked the worst, the least favorite. Maybe ironically, who's number one in terms of who's the favorite, the best? His father, Pierre. 20% selected him as their favorite prime minister. Second favorite, Stephen Harper, it's 17%. And then Jean Chrétien at 11% after that. And I have to be fair, ranking fourth as the most favorite prime minister in history, at least over the past 55 years, Justin Trudeau. So he's ranked as the least favorite, number one, but selected as the favorite, number 4, with 11%. And he fared better than Brian Mulroney in that arena. He came in 5th as people's favorite prime minister at 8%. But what was it? What is it that makes JT such a polarizing figure and has made him so fall out of favor with the Canadian public so quickly? Well, maybe not quickly. He had a lot of Teflon on for quite a while. But the Teflon has worn off. Remember this during the pandemic?
Don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk. Don't want to get vaccinated.
It was statements like that that divided the country, polarized people, scared people, fueled the fear during the pandemic. He used it as a wedge issue during the last election. And at the time, it seemed to have paid off. He seemed to play it right. They did psychographic polling to determine where people's headspace collectively was at. And he made use of that in order to get himself reelected and return the Liberals to power in a minority government position. But over time, as more information has come out, public opinion has started to shift, and in a pretty dramatic way. Let's take a look, shall we, at that footage again from this week when he made this pit stop in Belleville, Ontario, and was greeted by an angry group of Canadians who think they've just had enough of Justin Trudeau.
You're a traitor, Trudeau!
You're a fucking communist! Get out of Canada! Communist bastard! Communist bastard! Fuck Trudeau! 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 Fuck you! You wanted Trudeau! Fucking criminal! You guys shouldn't represent him. That's fucking dangerous.
Beat it,
You
Trudeau!
fucking coward! Get going! Get going! You're a fucking piece of shit! Get the fuck out! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
You're a pathetic Jew! You are a pathetic Jew! You're all a bunch of pathetic Jews! Off the street! Off the street!
Chill out!
Off the street, please! Off the street! Move your phone backwards, please! Back up!
That's right, fucking run! Run, Trudeau! Run, bud! Run away!
You must buy your pants at the same place the other guy bought his pants. One of yours
What fucking guy did I see get pushed? You know how many women I did? Oh, you
You suck, Trudeau! You need security! You fucking loser! Fuck you, Trudeau!
So that wasn't a very warm welcome. There were other angles there when he was making his way through the crowd in Belleville, where he was just smiling and actually still posing for selfies with people. The mania there, I don't know how you continue to smile and act like there's nothing much going on when all of that is being directed at you, all of that rage. That's what happened in Belleville, and he cut that visit short, was not actually able to go into the venue where he was scheduled to appear. And then there has been controversy surrounding some of the language used. Different people hearing sort of different things. Was that person? Well, there were two people that I heard shouting. The question was the phrase, "You pathetic Jew," or "pathetic puke," or something else similar to that. And I think there was I'm going to run this one more time. You can make your own assessment on it. The Anti-Defamation League, I guess, and some friends and the Friends of the Simon Wiesenthal Center have come out and have expressed real concern about the language being used.
You're a traitor, Trudeau!
You're a fucking communist! Get out of Canada! Communist bastard! Communist bastard! Fuck Trudeau! 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 Fuck you! You wanted Trudeau! Fucking represents him. Let's fucking lose.
Beat it,
You
Trudeau!
fucking coward! Get going! You're a fucking piece of shit! Get the fuck out! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
You're a pathetic kid! You are a pathetic kid! You're all a bunch of pathetic kids!
Off the street! Off the street!
Chill out!
Off the street, please! Off the street! Back up, please! Back up!
That's right, fucking run! Run, Trudeau! Run, bud! Run away!
You must buy your pants at the same place the other guy bought his pants 20 years ago.
What fucking guy did I see get pushed? You know how many women I did? Oh, you
You suck, Trudeau. You need security. You fucking loser. Fuck you, Trudeau.
So, yeah, I think that we're going to see more of that in the weeks and the months ahead as we approach the next election. It's going to be one heck of an election. I'll tell you that. Whenever it's called, we're not there yet. I don't know. This is not the Canada that I remember. The politics has certainly changed. And why? Well, I mean, look at who we have as Prime Minister. This is a guy who, people are shouting at him, saying, calling him a communist. Okay. Yeah. Why would they do that? Well, maybe it's because the guy said, remember, that he admires China's basic dictatorship. I remember. Because, he comes from a family. His father, he was a communist. Oh, I know. Some people say, oh, no, he wasn't. Yes, he was. Before becoming Prime Minister, he had absolute connections to the Communist Party. And, I have friends who are communists. I'm not, I'm not a communist. I'm all free market. That's me. But I don't hate communists. I have a lot of things in common with, some of their beliefs. And there are different kinds of communists. These labels, honestly, to me, don't mean a whole lot anymore because politics has changed and ideologies have blended. But I absolutely understand why people call him a communist. It's because of clips like this. Remember?
To China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted that I find quite interesting.
Trudeau's rivals pounced on that, saying it proves he admires dictatorship.
His answer demonstrates again a long-standing position of our party that he is in over his head.
I found it a bit silly for Justin Trudeau to say that what he admired the most was a dictatorship, frankly. I've always been rather fond of democracies.
And it wasn't just politicians who condemned Trudeau's comments.
A Canadian politician said, I look for China. I'm admire of the basic dictatorship in China. That is not only shocking, that is a shame.
All of that put Trudeau where no politician wants to be.
Yeah.
Point I made was that despite all of our freedoms and our extraordinary system of government and democracy, we are up against countries that play by different rules that we would never accept, but that find themselves able to address big issues quickly.
Right. Well, stick with me. When we come back, we'll continue our review of Justin Trudeau's progression toward being the most hated prime minister in Canadian history. Don't go away.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, I'm back. So there was all that, and then there was this with Justin Trudeau as well. Remember this interview in French? I will read the subtitles for those of you who are not able to see the screen. It says, yes, we'll end this pandemic with vaccination. We all know folks that are hesitant. We'll continue to try to convince them, but there are also folks that are fiercely opposed to vaccination. They're extremists. Let me just rewind that. I want to make sure you get the words right. Yeah, they're extremist. The host said they're extremist. They don't believe in science, JT says. They're often misogynistic. What does that have to do with anything on this? Often racist also. It's a small group that takes up space. So now we have to make a choice as a leader, as a country. Do we tolerate these people? What? Or do we say enough? The majority of people, almost 80% of Quebecers, did what needed to be done, got vaccinated. We want to return to things we like doing. It's not like those folks that will block us. Do we tolerate these people? Well, it seems the Canadian people, at least a lot of them, have had enough of JT. And I mentioned that his father was selected through this poll as the most popular prime minister in history, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Yeah. You know, there he is. There they are. Father and son team, like the only father and son to have served as prime minister, a father and a son in Canadian history. One the favorite, one the least favorite. And that swarming, if you want to call it that took place in Belleville, that was not the first time that has happened. Back in January, there was a swarming. We're going to show you a video of that to refresh your memory. This is not something that actually has happened overnight. People having a little difficulty pegging Justin Trudeau these days. What is he? Communist, fascist, liberal? I mean, he's the leader of the Liberal Party. It's a liberal government, liberal NDP government, the NDP propping up the minority liberal government by supporting them in all of their votes. But we had a discussion about this last night on OLeary's program, Strange Bedfellows, broadcast here on the Maverick News channel. And Caleb Maupin and Tyler McConnell joined us from the Center for Political Innovation. They are communists. And they were just on the program to discuss Christianity within the context of communism, an exploration of Christian communism. But the discussion did end up taking a turn into the area of Justin Trudeau, and it's all because of this swarming thing that took place. And of course, questions about what Justin's true political ideology might be. Well, this is where the discussion went.
Exactly. It's what you do. It's not so much what you say.
OLeary says he's a
what you do.
fascist.
Although words do
I
have
understand
power.
that.
And that's why when I hear words like that being screamed at Prime Minister Trudeau, who I deplore and cannot stand, I'm just thinking to myself, at least get your insults right, fellas. He's not a Jew and he's not a communist. I'm sorry, Rick. I have to
He's a
disagree.
communist.
I think he's a
He's the
fascist.
evil kind. It's like the Superman, same outfit, but the evil side.
Well, you know, I agree with you that Pierre Trudeau was pretty pink. I wouldn't say he was red, but he was pretty pink.
Pretty red.
Justin, I don't know what went wrong with that guy. I think he was dropped on his head too many times as a
I
child.
agree
or
on that.
Maybe he's been hanging around Chrystia Freeland too much and
I can agree on that too.
absorbing some of her politics. But there's a strong fascist streak in Justin Trudeau.
I think he's hard to define because I think he just fits into the globalist category, which is a mix of things. So
Which brings me to a great question. I want to ask this one of Tyler. What's the difference between an internationalist and a globalist?
Well, to me, it boils down to what are you going international for? Are you going international to spread imperialism, to spread colonialism, to spread degrowth, to corner the market in poor countries so you can steal their wealth and put it on Wall Street? Are you going international so you can, start scooping up all their data, censoring their free speech, inciting color revolutions to take over their popular, nationalist leaders, or spreading international politics so that the workers form unions in other countries, so they meet together in international groups that plan out how to fight the people who are doing all the things I just explained to you what they are doing. To me, that's the internationalist movement of the communists, was to get workers together to fight against imperialism, colonialism, and the use of capital against them, for breaking up their unions, for lowering their living standards, for stomping on their free speech rights. So it really boils down to me. It's like, okay, I believe,
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. Tyler makes another comment, though, and I'm going to bring it up in another part of the of that program from last night. And I'll make a new point about this. Oops. Wrong thing. Didn't want to bring that up. Hang on. Come back here. There we go.
He was in attendance and he gave a speech at your CPI.
I think it's here. Hang on a second. Let me take a brief break. I want to make sure I get this clip queued up here properly for you. I'm going to be right back. Don't go away.
We are Mavericks.
This was about 10 days
Can I
ago.
just say one thing
We
about
say no to
Trudeau
the
before-
Trudeau and Biden New World Order.
So he wants to know if
And
he's
to
very
bunks.
interested in having Lori do a church lady.
Because bugs are creepy and gross.
But they're not communal facts.
And people
If
should
Jose
not
can't
eat
be
bugs.
here, he's a
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So Justin Trudeau is so unpopular. It seems nobody wants him anymore. It's hard to define him. He just seems to be universally unpopular at the moment because of his actions, his horrendous public policy, especially during the lockdowns and the way that he treated the truckers during the convoy. And so how do you define him? Well, is he a communist, a fascist? I call him a communo-fascist, the evil kind. And Tyler McConnell, in last night's program from CPI, Caleb, Tyler, they're both communists. And well, you just listen to what Tyler has to say.
unable to connect to the show. At least I can show you a little video of Jose because he was in attendance and he gave a speech at your CPI event. I guess this was about 10 days
Can
ago.
I just say one thing about Trudeau before we move on?
Oh, yeah, please.
I think he is a communist.
You do, huh?
Yeah, he says he's a communist. He says he admires China's basic communist dictatorship. So here's how I look at it. Trudeau is a communo-fascist, but he's an evil communist. He's like a really bad one. He's the bad kind. But you guys, you're okay.
But they're not communo-fascists. What the heck?
No,
is a
you're not
communo-fascist?
communo-fascists. You're just like a new breed. You're
Now, do you
CPI.
think he's
You're okay.
actually Fidel Castro's illegitimate son?
That's the rumor. That's what they say.
Yeah, you put two pictures, side by side.
There is an amazing resemblance. And Maggie Trudeau, she got it on back in the day. I heard she and Fidel were pretty chummy.
There you go.
No comment, huh?
Isn't there like a made-for-TV movie from Australia about a woman who has an affair with Stalin, and then her son goes on to become the Australian communist dictator or something? I haven't seen it. People have told me about it.
His seed is that strong.
Something like that, yeah.
Just as a child, and that child immediately becomes a dictator wherever he grows up. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we had Kyle Kemper on here yesterday. We had Kyle Kemper on. I don't think that he's the son of Castro. Anyway.
No, but anyway, and that was Mr. Kemper. Like I say,
Yes, it
Maggie
was.
got around. And did you know? I don't know, Rick. You might be old enough to remember this. Margaret Trudeau had a long affair with Senator Ted Kennedy back in the 70s. And I mean, this lasted for probably a decade behind both of their spouses' backs. So, maybe Justin has some Kennedy blood in him. You never know.
I will say, Rick, I don't know. These words are so, they're so loaded that four people having a conversation that agree on so much will have completely different ideas. Like, if you think Trudeau is a communist, then I don't want to be one. We're obviously way different, but we could try to dissect this for 6 hours and we're still probably gonna be like, I don't know, because it's like decades of programming on both sides.
That's
right. So nobody seems to want him. except maybe the liberal woke crowd, right? Tyler and Caleb don't want him. Lori doesn't want him. I don't want him. I guess, and it looks like the Canadian people on a larger scale no longer want him. So we'll see what happens in that next election. The polling, though, let's take a look and see where we're at with the polls. 338 keeps us up to date. So right now, federal projections, let's bring up the screen. In Canada, how's JT and his Liberal Party doing? Well, right now, federally, Conservative Party at 35%, plus or minus 4%. Liberals, 31%, plus or minus 3%. New Democrats, 19. Bloc Québécois, 7. Green Party, 4. PPC not listed. And so with that margin of error in that polling, it's a neck and neck race. It's anybody's election. And I think when you're looking at those kind of numbers, if we were to go to the polls today, regardless of what we saw on the streets in Belleville, I don't think we would see much of a change in the power structure if the ballots were to be cast today, if you believe that poll. Media can be deceiving. Watching that confrontation, that display of emotion this week, it's coming from a particular place. Is that representative of the entire country? I'm not sure. And this poll that shows people have picked JT as the least favorite prime minister, that also, I'm not sure if that's truly representative of the country in a way that would translate into election results. Only 3 in 10 picked him, so that's 30%. What does that mean when it comes time to pick a candidate? When people walk into the polling station and cast a ballot, I don't know. If the 338 poll is any indication, public opinion hasn't changed much. I do know this. There was a confrontation like that, a swarming. You may remember this back in January in Hamilton, where Justin Trudeau was out crossing the street and he was going to a big Liberal function in, one of the, I think it was the big hotel there. And the crowd descended upon him. And I honestly have to say, I think I recognize some of the people in the video who kind of go around to a lot of different protests. And I think some of them may have been in Belleville and in Hamilton, for whatever that's worth, if it even means anything. But after this, in Hamilton back in January, the Liberals actually went up in the polls. Believe it or not. Let me show you the video to refresh your memory. Here we go. So the angry crowd, very much is, the same sort of scenario. That was Hamilton in January. I think it was on the 24th of January. I don't ever remember Canadian politics being like this ever before. The pandemic has changed the country permanently, I think. I don't think there's any coming back. It's never been more divided. Emotions have never been so intense. Totally get it. I understand. Will those kinds of displays hurt the prime minister? I think kind of. And yet I know that the polls showed after that event in Hamilton, Trudeau and the Liberals actually gained in public support. Don't know why. Maybe there were other factors aside from that. I guess we'll see. And I know that we have a lot of US viewers, and maybe this is a little too Canadian focused for you tonight, but keep in mind that Justin Trudeau has been and continues to be the poster boy for the globalists. And that's why, I mentioned, like, I see Justin Trudeau as a globalist. I see him as a communo-fascist. What do I mean by that? Laura said, well, what does that even mean? It actually means a lot. It means exactly what I'm referring to. You see, Tyler and Caleb, they say they're communists. And in my mind, yeah, okay, maybe if you want to talk about the economic system that they want to bring in, yeah, I get it. But I don't think that Tyler and Caleb are authoritarians. I don't think that I don't get any sense from them that they want to be authoritarian in any respect. And they're trying to, as Caleb pointed out, they're breaking new ground. They're trying to innovate politically. They're trying to find a kind of a new kind of communism. And I think that's really what's going on across the political spectrum. I think all of these ideologies are being merged, morphed, twisted, blended. These old labels I don't think always apply. I think new labels kind of have to be attached to things to accurately describe the actions and the ideologies that are being employed by a lot of people, including JT. I call him a communo-fascist, and what I mean by that is I see the globalists as having come together, the communists and the fascists, but certain breeds of them, certain factions, and they are authoritarian in nature. And Justin Trudeau has embraced that. I see him as an authoritarian, a globalist authoritarian. I think that the economic system that Trudeau is employing through his liberal government is one of economic fascism. It's corporatism. It is, by definition, well, what is economic fascism? It is big companies that still are privately owned, even through the stock market. So you can own part of these companies as a shareholder by owning stock. So there's private ownership and there's still private property rights in that regard, but it's all focused on big corporations, big companies. But those companies are actually, well, they're run privately, but controlled by the government through regulation, through government grants, subsidies, tax laws. They manipulate and control these companies and basically tell them what to produce and how to behave socially, which is why you have all of the big corporations going woke. But the companies are run privately in an effort to maximize efficiency and to still make use of property rights, where communism is a form of, as an economic system where it's centrally planned. And there's central planning going on through this corporatism, this economic fascism as well, because the government is directing the economy, whether it, whatever industry it is, whether it's to get away from oil and come up with alternative energy sources, or whether it's the electrification of the auto industry. It's all being government directed. It's not the free market. So yes, it is capitalism, because capital is being used to leverage the economy and investments, and people who have capital, whether it's money capital or physical capital like factories and other physical assets or physical capital, they use those to leverage their income without necessarily needing to invest labor. They take risk, and these are more complicated economic ideas. But that's economic fascism. On the communist side, even socialist side, they want more central planning, government control. They want the government to run things. They want the government to take control of especially things like the oil industry, or even banking, or insurance, healthcare. Those are more socialistic, or the further you go, you get into communistic territory. So why am I calling Justin a communo-fascist? Well, communist governments and even fascist governments, whether you're talking about Hitler, or if you're talking about some of the harshest communist regimes in history, they have been dictatorships. Justin Trudeau refers to even today's Chinese government as a dictatorship. Well, if you look at the worst of the worst, they're authoritarian in nature. Well, I see Justin Trudeau as being authoritarian in nature. And as a globalist, what the globalists have done is they've taken the fascistic economic model through corporatism. They're trying to employ it on a global scale, but they're also employing central planning globally. They want to also control people through authoritarian measures. And so I see him as the evil kind of communist, so evil that he's actually communo-fascist. That is, in my view, that's what globalism largely is. And that's what Justin Trudeau has become. He's evolved into a communo-fascist, and I think that really what we're looking at there is that is what globalists are. They want to control the whole world economy through corporatism and economic fascism. And you have this blending of some of the communist ideology and some of the fascistic ideology and the authoritarian aspects of that. Therefore, that is the way that's how I view Justin Trudeau. But he has become so unpopular that nobody seems to want him. Not even Tyler. And I totally get that. He doesn't want to be associated with that. I totally understand. So I just think we're going to see more and more and more of that. And it all started right here, didn't it? Back during the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. And all just Justin Trudeau really had to do to avoid all of this flack was come out and talk to the truckers, or have the truckers, a delegation, come in and talk to him and try to calm things down. But he has never, ever done that. He would have avoided all of this trouble, I think, for himself, and probably would have been voted most popular prime minister had he found a way forward to bring people together, to diffuse things, and be respectful of people, especially people that he doesn't agree with. Because, like it or not, Justin, you still represent all Canadians, including those that you disagree with. Remember this? There we go. This is, just to look back at.
So the folks out there tonight shouting, the anti-vaxxers, they're wrong. If you want to get on a plane or a train in the coming months, you're going to have to be fully vaccinated because everyone needs to get vaccinated, and those people are putting us all at risk. Yes, there is a small fringe element in this country that is angry, that doesn't believe in science, that is lashing out with racist, misogynistic attacks. Those protesters I don't even want to call them protesters, those anti-vaxxer mobs, they don't get to dictate policy of this government. Get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk.
Remember that old fella there? They arrested him in Ottawa for honking his horn on his.
You need to condemn those people. You need to correct them. And I am not going to back down, no matter how many of them show up to try and shout us down from what I know to be true, what science tells us.
And that is why Justin Trudeau is in the position he's in tonight. Most, I'm going to say, hated Prime Minister probably in Canadian history. Not maybe by everybody, but probably by half the people, because the country has never been so divided. And that is tragic. Canada has lost its innocence. In fact, the Canada I know, the Canada I knew, is gone.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Remember this clip? Kevin OLeary You know, when I say Canada, the Canada that I knew is gone, I do mean it, but I sure do want it back. I'd sure like to have it back. Kevin O'Leary, too. I mean, he says Trudeau's got to go.
Canada is the richest country on earth run by idiots. And I hate to say that as a Canadian because I have a passport,
Right.
but I'm also Irish and I'm also Emirati. But I'm really unhappy about the way Canada's run. And I'm not picking at any one politicians. Very weak skill sets in management there. And that's the premise by which you want someone from business to run a country.
You've been very public in your
This was on
disdain for the
Fox
Prime Minister
News,
now, Prime Minister
repeating what he
Trudeau, that he's doing a horrible
was
job, that he's
saying
making
Canada.
things worse.
This
You
isn't an
still
old
subscribe
clip,
to that, I guess.
relevant.
He is one of the most successful politicians in history. He's been in that seat forever. He has zero executional skills. He is a horrible manager. He perhaps is the worst manager Canada's ever been under. The absolute worst. It can't get worse. Absolutely a -10.
Hence, selected as worst prime minister in the last 55 years, if not in Canadian history, and falling out of favor internationally as well, as we've seen with Christine Anderson calling him out, others in the European Union also calling him out. And how about this Lieutenant Steve Rogers? He seems to be very focused on Canada. Very focused on Canada. Very focused on Justin Trudeau. Very, 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 very focused on Canada. Lieutenant Steve Rogers. And here's a clip from him, just I think from this past week. Also, just talking about JT.
During the past 2 years, we have been warning our congressional representatives about the serious threat Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is becoming to the cause of freedom and liberty in Canada, as well as to the national security of the United States of America, as a result of enacting laws that mirror the policies of the Chinese Communist Party. For example, Trudeau had a law passed by his parliament that is tantamount to censoring all broadcasting flowing in and out of Canada. Now, this, in my view, is the construction of a 21st century Berlin Wall, not made of brick, not made of mortar, but made of electronic barriers. He is also supporting Marxist ideologies to be taught to young children in schools all across Canada. Now, look, one might say, well, you've had that problem in the United States of America. Yes, we have, and we took care of it, and we're continuing to take care of it by tossing out school board members and by putting an end to the political careers of those who support this Marxist ideology. Now, one might also say, well, isn't that the problem of the Canadian people to address? Well, I'll tell you something. They are addressing it, and they're doing it gallantly. They're doing it with great strength, and they're doing it within the framework of the law, and to a great degree, they are winning. But Trudeau took things out of his country and placed them at the doorstep of millions of Americans when he blamed what he defines as the American right wing for the opposition he is receiving by Canadian citizens to his very own policies. The term American right wing is the same term used by the Biden administration, the Department of Justice, and the FBI when targeting conservatives, Republicans, parents attending school board meetings, and patriotic Americans fighting to preserve their freedoms, their liberties, and their individual rights. Additionally, his statement comes at a time when we in America are approaching a very critical presidential election, as well as congressional and state elections. Now, if that's not election interference by a foreign government, then what is? Presently, The Hague is reviewing thousands of pages of evidence regarding the actions of Trudeau. And this past week, the EU Parliament heard testimony from a Canadian citizen victimized by government-sanctioned abuse and excessive force by the Canadian police. And the Ohio State Legislature here in the United States has already recommended that the Canadian government be placed on a religious watch list. In view of the fact that Trudeau has recklessly and without any justification attacked millions of Americans, the United States Congress cannot afford to sit idly by and allow a communist influencer like Trudeau to spread his propaganda without being held accountable. It's time for the United States Congress to address Trudeau and investigate exactly what is going on in Canada as it relates to United States national security. It's time for Congress to invoke the Truman and Reagan doctrine that commits the United States of America to fight and prevent the spread of communism everywhere on this planet, including Canada. I urge every American media outlet to follow events unfolding in Canada and every American patriot to contact their congressional representatives and urge them to address this matter sooner rather than later. Now let us keep our nations in prayer and remember that scripture in 2 Corinthians 3:17, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Well, that says to me that it's very important that we not only take the action we're taking politically, but we take that action in prayer, especially at this critical time in the history of our countries. Thank you. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.
So JT is actually put Canada on the radar for some powerful people in the US, I guess, people with some political clout. Concern about Canada as a potential existential threat to the United States of America because of Justin's admiration for communist dictatorships, viewed by some, like Lieutenant Steve Rogers, as a communist, spreading communist ideology, cultural Marxism, to the point where now he's worried about Canada being an actual possible security threat to the United States of America, sitting on the border, this largely undefended border between Canada and the US, with customs checkpoints, of course, but no military sitting there to defend this border, now viewed by some as a possible security threat, an existential threat, a possible threat to the existence even of the United States, Canada. That's how far things have deteriorated because of Justin Trudeau's actions. That's how some now view Justin Trudeau. That's how Lieutenant Steve Rogers views Justin Trudeau. And I believe it was the Ohio legislature that has placed Canada on a watch list because of its disrespect, its restrictions on religion, specifically Christianity. During the pandemic, there were provisions made to actually expedite to at least one or two states requests from Canadians who are seeking political asylum. Do you remember that? Canada is falling out of favor internationally, and it's because of not just his ideology, not just what he says, but because of what Justin Trudeau has actually done as Prime Minister. Freezing bank accounts, using police to beat the truckers. His economic policies, making everything far more expensive for people. Inflation. The list goes on, right? Pushing cultural Marxism in the schools. That's where all of this confrontation, this conflict in the streets is coming from. It's all coming right from the top and flowing down. And when I say the top, it isn't even Justin Trudeau's office. This is a global thing. This is globalism. and it's coming home to roost in Canada. Now, you can call it communism, you can call it fascism, you can call it whatever you want. You can apply any label you want to this. I think these labels, honestly, are obsolete. I don't think they mean what they used to mean. I don't think people even understand the old meanings largely. They don't know what the definitions of these political ideologies are. But whatever, it doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is what's happening. And what I see happening is not just disturbing, it's depressing. Because he's taken this beautiful country, a country that, with all of its warts and all of its flaws, was constantly working toward making things better for everyone. A beautiful place with people from all over the world here who were coming together and building something magnificent. And now it has been ripped apart. People subjected to massive psychological warfare campaigns to the point where people are now so divided that I no longer recognize the country. And that's also because of the censorship, the authoritarian measures, the mandates, the disrespect and the dismantling of our rights through these attacks on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the Bill of Rights, on the Constitution itself, to the point where a lot of people just no longer even see the government as being legitimate, rightly or wrongly. But they don't feel that what the government is doing is justified, what Justin Trudeau is doing is justified. So, of course, they embrace the idea that the government is not legitimate. Whether it is or it isn't, they don't want to support it anymore. And that in itself is an important point. Regardless of the political ideas that you might have, there is something through old philosophy. You can go back and you can look at like John Locke and other philosophers, and you can come up with ideas like a social contract. And every government has exactly that. That is ultimately what holds any government together, the social contract. What is a social contract? It's an unwritten agreement, essentially, between the people who are governed, the governed, and the government. An agreement that the people will support what the government is doing, provided the government provides proper support back through programs and economic systems that work for the people so that they're able to live and function and survive and raise their families and live in a reasonable degree of prosperity. But when things begin to break down and the government doesn't live up to its end of the bargain, the social contract begins to fall apart. And then, regardless of what the language is in a constitution, or regardless of whether you're part of the monarchy or you're not, or whether you want to decouple from the monarchy and Britain or not, if you don't want to recognize, it doesn't matter. What matters is whether the people actually support the government. And what you're seeing, what we've witnessed through this week in a very graphic way, is the erosion of that social contract to the point where a growing number of Canadians, and I would say this is also the case in the United States, by the way, so take note, my American friends, this is an erosion of public confidence and support in the government and the system. And those who are opposed to it, those who seek power on the other side, are taking advantage of that and campaigning in ways to further erode that public confidence and support in the system, tear the system down. And so the irony in this is that while we have the globalists trying to tear everything down and build back better through a great reset, we also have people on the other side now who also want to tear it all down and replace it with something different, whatever that might be. And there are very few of us left in the middle who are sitting there saying, I want my country back. And people using that language saying, I want my country back, or I'm here to save Canada or save the United States. Really, a lot of them don't mean that. What they're really saying is, I want to tear it down and build it in this manner. I want to build it back this way. And the other side wants to build it back that way. In a way, we are, and I don't even mean in a way, we are actually right now, folks, at war in that respect. It's this ongoing struggle, conflict. It's a culture war. It's an information war. It's the kind of war that we've never fought before. Something brand new, a new kind of warfare. Yes, we have this kinetic war in Ukraine, and that is part of it. And it is potentially going to spread. I sure hope not, but as all the indicators are there that it will be spreading and that we're going to become more directly involved in it. But here on the home front, the war rages on even as we speak. I'm saddened. And I'm worried. I'm worried about what we're going to end up with on the other side. I don't know. It just looks like there's just no coming back from this. There's only moving forward. And then what are we going to do with this? And when I'm watching Lieutenant Steve Rogers speak, I'm not just hearing ideology there. I'm hearing some sort of other messaging. He's telling us that something's coming. Whatever that might be. Whether it comes to pass, I have no idea. Whatever it is. But something's going on out there. I have a little bit of an inkling of what some of those things might be. And I can only pledge this. Whatever happens, I will do my best to keep you informed in a fair, balanced, truthful, and accurate way. That's why I'm here. I shall return.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Fear not the storm, for truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. Let's move on to other news. Enough of Justin Trudeau for one night. Why do I feel like we'll still end up mentioning him? Joe Biden, not in very good shape either. He, in a new poll, let me see if I can find it here. I had it queued up. I had all the information. A new poll out showing that he now has the second lowest approval rating in modern U.S. history. 39%. Here, take a look. This is just a graphic. CNN poll, actually, right there. 39%. Carter, 29% back in 1979. I believe that was the lowest approval rating for any sitting president at that. And so Biden, not faring much better. Second lowest. Second most unpopular president in modern U.S. history. Jimmy Carter is the first, according to new polling. So this poll, and this is, it goes back to the middle of July. So these numbers, of course, they need time to analyze them. So this is the most recent information we have. But as of July 18th, Biden's average job approval rating, according to this poll, is just 39.1%. His average approval rating is 55.4%. And that means his net approval rating is minus 16.3%, which is well underwater, as pollsters often say. So negative 16.3% is also terribly bad, historically speaking. In fact, the only president who had worse numbers than Biden was Jimmy Carter, who hit negative 28.6 in that way after 910 days in office. And at that time, just 29% of Americans approved of what Jimmy Carter was doing in the White House. 57.6% disapproved of what he was doing at that time. And I remember Carter. I mean, super nice guy, terribly ineffective president, in my opinion. Inflation was way too high. We wound up with a terrible economy. His foreign policy resulted in America being seen as honestly weak. And so countries lashed out. It resulted in conflict because even though I'd rather see strength through peace, you do need to still be seen as strong so that you have respect internationally and that people don't, especially when you're a superpower, you need to, I think, walk softly, but carry the big stick and do it responsibly. But what Carter did is sort of convey the message that he would never use a stick. He just came off as weak. And then you ended up with the Iran hostage crisis. That just dragged on, and it hurt America. It hurt America internationally. It hurt America at home. People lost confidence in their government even more. And while they embraced Carter, even people, I think, on the sort of the liberal side, the Democrat side, they lost confidence in their country because of his actions, even as they continued to support him. And so when they fawn over him, I don't agree. I think he was probably, I think Carter was the worst. Well, he was the worst. Biden, by far, is worse than Carter. By far. Because I think Carter was at least an honest guy overall and a nice guy. And I think he had good intentions and he tried hard and he did a lot of humanitarian things. So he did do a lot of good things. Just on the economy, he just wasn't strong, and on foreign policy, also ineffective. But Biden, that guy's just a disaster all the way across the board. He's corrupt. He's got, honestly, look at what's gone on with, the business dealings in Ukraine and Hunter's laptop. All the gritty, dirty details are in there. It's disgusting. By far the worst. So, yeah, Biden not doing well in the polls. Doesn't bode well for him heading into that next election. The DNC will try to keep him firmly implanted as the candidate to run against Trump. But I don't know if he'll be able to hold on. And I'll tell you this, I'll say this. If somehow, through some miracle, RFK Jr. becomes the nominee for the Democrat Party, he'll win the election. And the reason I say that is because what's going on with Trump, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't even feel right. The Trump campaign that we're seeing right now is nothing like what we saw the first time he was elected. Not the same at all. Totally different feel. The support is coming from a different place. The base is there, but the base, when I say a different place, the base of support itself has changed. It isn't just MAGA. It's something different, and we'll get into that, I think, on another evening, where we'll kind of analyze what's going on with the Trump campaign. A lot of it, to me, too, feels cheap. The Trump ticket has been cheapened. I mean, I was big on Trump when he was elected, when he was first, doing his thing. I was very big on Trump, as a lot of people were. But I've lost a lot of confidence in where he's at because, as I say, I think a lot it's coming off feeling cheaper. He can turn things around, but when I look at like those digital trading cards, those NFTs that he issued, just stuff like that, it just didn't come off feeling right. Now, the saving grace for him is that the people running against him for the nomination, people like DeSantis, I mean, his Twitter launch was a dumpster fire, a total disaster. Other challengers like Chris Christie and others, they're not generating much in terms of actual support. So he doesn't have very super strong contenders. DeSantis, I think, is probably the biggest threat to him, even though the polling shows that Nikki Haley is in a better position than DeSantis right now, polling 1% better than DeSantis. I think it's 13% for Nikki Haley, and if I remember right, it's 12% for DeSantis. And Trump has surged forward with about 48% support within the Republican Party. And I think he probably will be the nominee. Who will run against him? If it's Biden, I don't know what'll happen. I mean, I didn't see Biden pulling it off the last time around, but we all have a pretty good idea of what happened there. Will that be a repeat performance for us? I hope not. Or will RFK Jr. emerge and take that nomination and run against Trump? If he can get that nomination, I think he will be the president. The reason being, he appeals to people across the political spectrum. He has momentum. He appeals to Trump supporters because he's not actually a Democrat. He's a populist. He's a populist candidate, just like Trump. Trump is a populist candidate as well. But the tone has changed for Trump. He's become more extreme in some respects as he continues to try to appeal to and cater to the more entrenched and polarized elements of his base of support. More to come on that front in the days ahead. When I talk about peace through strength, new stuff coming out, new information about the first nuclear test. Oppenheimer's nuclear test, the Trinity nuclear test, new study showing that nuclear fallout from that test reached 46 states, Canada and Mexico. So fallout from that test reached 46 different US states, as well as drifted into Canada and parts of Mexico. It was July 1945, and this, of course, getting attention today because of the movie Oppenheimer that is out. But back in July 1945, researchers of the Manhattan Project prepared to test their brand new atomic bomb in the New Mexico desert. And back then, they didn't really know what to expect. And what they got was an explosion. It was actually a plutonium implosion that set off an explosion. It was set off on top of a 100-foot metal tower. The test was codenamed Trinity, and it was much, much, much stronger than they expected. That they did not know what they were dealing with. So you ended up with this gigantic mushroom cloud and an explosion that was many times bigger than they anticipated, and it spewed into the atmosphere all kinds of radioactive waste. And the mushroom cloud, extended some 70,000 feet up. It fused the sand into glass. And so this new study is showing that the fallout drifted all over the place. And of course, we know that there can be health effects from that, right? So the drift of the Trinity cloud was monitored by physicists and doctors, but they underestimated how far it would reach. So this, this information being reported actually through the New York Times, I think, was the first paper to put this information out, being carried by some other news organizations as part of newswire services that go out. So the story is getting additional play, and I think it's timely, given that we have this conflict going on in Ukraine that is pushing us closer to a direct conflict, possibly with Russia. And we're already in a direct conflict. But what I mean is where they actually start using our troops, our young men and women, ask them to go and possibly have this thing escalate into an actual nuclear conflict. Here's footage of the Trinity blast. This stuff was remastered, cleaned up, digitized. This is the clearest stuff, this clearest footage out there. This is what it looked like back in 1945. As I say, that mushroom cloud extended up some 70,000 feet into the air. And that is radioactive. Keep in mind that the weapons used today, this is a medium shot. Some of them are many, many times more powerful. Far more powerful than that. And they now have tactical nuclear weapons, which are designed to have much smaller blasts and be used in tactical ways, but they also emit radiation. So there's radioactive fallout from those as well. And that, you know what that means? Cancer, all kinds of illnesses, lingering effects for generations to come. And this test, first one, it was a prelude to a huge arms race and a lot more testing, a lot more nuclear testing that has taken place since. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nuclear tests, and a lot of them conducted underground now, or at least they were. And who knows what they're really doing? I don't think they tell us a lot, which is why Wednesday, keep in mind that we're going to be hearing from an oversight committee that is going to be looking at government handling of reports of UFOs and UAPs. That's all kind of weird stuff too. Why are they? What is it with that? I don't know. There's stuff going on there. And maybe on Wednesday that hearing will help us get to the bottom of it, but I'm honestly not that optimistic about it. Staying with Ukraine, though, Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, says sending F-16s to Ukraine, which is a further escalation in that conflict with Russia. It could take months and months, in fact. So he's cautioning the deliveries of those F-16s, which Ukraine has been requesting for months, could still take months once it's determined that if the fighter jets are appropriate. But regardless of what's going on, Blinken says, the U.S. is still fully supportive of the conflict in Ukraine. So this is Sunday. So, of course, you're getting these comments made during these news talk shows and in an interview with CNN. He says that U.S. assistance to Ukraine is so far still on track, and he's insisting that Kiev has consistently been given the equipment it needs to try to repel the Russian invasion, even without those F-16s. But I don't think it's going as well as the U.S. would have us believe, or NATO. And it's going to take time to, I think, get pilots trained and provide the proper support for the equipment. And that's why it could take months and months. So keep your eye on that as well, because if those planes go in there, that will definitely mark a significant escalation. Significant. Okay, let's take another quick break here, and I will return with more. Don't go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Some more on JT. I guess the mayor of Belleville has come out with a statement because, as you may remember, as I said earlier, JT, Justin Trudeau, was swarmed by that crowd of angry Canadians in the town of Belleville. So now the mayor there has come out and has said that he ain't happy with that. I'll bring up the page. The mayor of Belleville has posted a statement on the municipality's website. Let me find it for you here. So, coming to JT's defense. So he's saying that it was unacceptable. Well, here, let's just bring it up now. All right, I've got it. From the mayor's office in Belleville, Ontario, Canada, about Justin Trudeau. So it says, after taking time to reflect, is it on the screen here? Here it is. After taking time to reflect, I would like to address the actions of certain individuals during our visit from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this past Thursday. While every Canadian has the right to protest, the hateful and discriminatory behavior displayed by some during the visit was absolutely unacceptable. It is an honor to host the Prime Minister in our city, and regardless of your political views, no person deserves the treatment he received during his time here. Freedom of speech and the right to protest can be a wonderful thing. It is a part of what makes democracy great. However, what happened on Thursday was far beyond that. On behalf of the city, I would like to thank Prime Minister Trudeau for taking the time to visit Belleville and hope that we can all move forward from this experience. So, I know that online views are kind of all over the map on this. Well, I shouldn't say all over the map. I think views are polarized. Again, just like the politics. Do you think that it was appropriate or not appropriate? What do you guys think? How do you feel about what went down in Belleville with the Prime Minister? Should we go to the phone? Should we open up a conversation on this tonight? I'll tell you what, we'll do just that. In order to do that, though, I'm going to ask for your support. If you're inclined, help us pay the bills. The phone system takes money. It has to be recharged. And that means, what's that mean? It means I have to pump some money into the system. We pay by the minute. If you guys value having a voice here, if you're able to, please consider stepping up and donating here tonight. Anybody that donates $30 or more, I will send you a t-shirt. If you just attach to it, we have these t-shirts. And $30 or more, and just email me, message me as part of the donation. Just put a notation even in the donation, what size t-shirt you would like. Make sure that I get your address. You can email me as well, just by going to the website mavericknews.ca. You can use the contact forms, send us an email there, a supplement to the messaging you send as part of the donation. You can donate at freedomreporters.com or at maverickdonations.com. Either way, most people seem to prefer the freedomreporters.com. That's PayPal. Maverickdonations.com is the give, send, go. But either way works. You can also donate through the Rumble Rants. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. If you do subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell. Then you won't miss any of the videos that we produce. You'll get the notifications. And yeah, please subscribe over on Rumble. We have 2 channels on Rumble. Subscribe to them both if you can find them. The main channel is doing very, very well. I've started a second channel so we can do some other additional things over there. And we simulcast on both of those channels every night now. And we're growing on Rumble. So please consider subscribing over there too. And donate at freedomreporters.com to keep us on the air, pay the bills, keep the lights on, keep the phone system rocking and rolling so that you guys can call in during the program. So that being said, let me get you the number to call. And while you guys digest this, I will get everything set up so that you can call in and join the conversation and tell me, was what happened in Belleville appropriate? Was what happened back in January in Hamilton, was that appropriate? Are you okay with it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? You tell me. What are your views? Here we go.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, let's get ready to roll here with these first callers of the evening. I'll get the number up on the screen. And again, the donation URL is freedomreporters.com. That'll take you straight to the donation page. And the number to phone, I'll get that banner up here for you, is 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. 1-833-975-3733. And we have callers in the queue already and ready to go. Let's go to our first caller of the evening. Go ahead, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm fine. How are you, Chris?
Oh, not too bad. Sorry, it's been a while since I've touched bases with you here.
Yeah.
Been a lot going on. I've had to deal with a death that occurred and some other things. Yeah. Well, it was a past boyfriend that I had like a while ago, but I know he'd been sick for a while, and then he kind of passed away. So I guess he had a liver transplant, and it didn't go so well the second time. There was a lot of clotting and everything that went on afterwards. And anyways, he had just turned 60, so kind of sad. And then I had my grandson for a week here as well, so a lot was going on. But I have been following you as much as I can. As far as that thing in Belleville, I agree with the people protesting. I agree that the language is really, really offensive, especially when I see little children in the audience, in the crowd with their parents there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting pretty heated, right? Like, I mean, it's one thing to protest and maybe just chant or whatever, but yeah, you have to kind of wonder, because this is happening everywhere he goes, and it gets more and more vocal everywhere he goes. So you do have to wonder if it's a certain people, just people that follow him around, or people really that angry with him.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think he is falling out of favor, but if you look at the polls, he's still polling where he generally has always polled. So I think you're right. I think, and I see direct evidence of it, that this is a choreographed campaign. You have people following him from stop to stop to stop. And it's a campaign, and it's designed, it's political theater. Largely.
Yeah, of course. Of course, yeah, but it is. I mean, you're seeing these Trudeau flags and everything. They're all coming back again.
Yeah.
As far as the polls go, I have to honestly say I don't believe the polls, because they're going to be on Trudeau's side, because if it's anything like mainstream media, right? Yeah. I don't trust the polls, because it's funny. Everybody I talk to, everybody wants Trudeau gone. Yeah. Nobody likes Trudeau. Right. So you can't tell me that he's still way up there, right? But true. These polls get altered to make him look right.
Yeah,
so
but
you never trust.
But don't. But I would say don't dismiss the passion that people on the other side have as well. I mean, they're just as entrenched politically. That's like everything is very polarized, right? So,
right.
As much as you're seeing people not happy with Trudeau, we always have to remember that we're sort of in our own circle of friends and our own little bubbles. So we get reinforcement. Right. And because I don't hang out with many people that are like pro-Trudeau. In fact, I don't think I have anybody around me at all. Right. But you see the crowds out. No. So yeah, it's hard to gauge, but I do agree with you.
Yeah. So I mean, and he wonders why, he's the most hated man. Well, if you think about this, goes back to when the Freedom Convoy was just starting out. What he said to those people, you don't think that didn't fuel anger? And then when people are getting there and they just want to talk to somebody goes in to meet with them, and he wouldn't meet and then the media turned it into, oh, it's such a bad thing. And then, you know, then you call in the police that beat on his own, you know, you beat on your own people. I mean, and then you have an inquiry that's fixed, you know, like there's just so many scandal after scandal, and he gets away with this. And, you know, he goes internationally and he embarrasses us everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, to me, I don't think he has any, I don't even know the right words for this. It seems like he just doesn't care. He really doesn't care. He's on this agenda, and that's all he's focused on. He doesn't care that people are starving in the streets. He doesn't care. When he said that the Muslims are being turned against him by somebody else, no, that's how they feel, the same as many other parents feel.
Yeah.
You know, like it is just so much going on. I don't think I've ever seen a prime minister in the news every single day causing as much chaos as he has that in my whole life. Like, really. And my dad, he hated his father. He hated Pierre Trudeau. I can remember that and because I was younger then, so I don't really remember why he hated him. I mean, you know, I was young, right? It's like, well, why would you hate a prime minister, right? Well, I guess if I went back and I reviewed stuff, but you know, I mean, his son is way worse. Well, if that's his son, that is. Anyways, but yeah, so that's just my theory. I think that everybody should have the right to definitely go and protest. And if he's out and about, I think it's getting to the danger level, though. Like, I mean, I don't know how dangerous these people can become, because obviously they seem to be getting closer and closer to him. Have you ever noticed that? Like, why are his security? I mean, they're almost to him, and then they'll push him away. Well, you know, that's pretty dangerous. I mean, as far as I can see, right? Like, it's just, you know, and it's going to keep happening and keep happening. And I do have one question to ask you. Who was the prime minister that was put out of office in Canada here?
The prime minister was put out of office.
Yes, remember they voted him out, or was that Joe Clark?
Well, Joe Clark had a minority government, and he was defeated on a budget that was disputed over a tax increase on gasoline. But because he had a minority government, the Liberals used the budget issue, turned that into a vote of confidence, which he lost. The budget was defeated, therefore he left off. So I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I think that's what I was referring to. It's been a while, but I was just thinking, why can't they do that with Trudeau? But then, like you said, he's in that coalition. See, that's another thing that upset people. He went and did that. I mean, the NDP joined sides with him, and Singh is no better. And Singh is always shooting his mouth off. Oh, well, you know, he's always threatening to get out of it if Trudeau doesn't do this and do that. Well, you know, that's all smoke and mirrors, because that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
I can't see that. I just wondered why with everything going on, why he can't be put out of office, and why the Governor General doesn't do more.
It's about support. If he has support in the House, then he stays in power. And right now it's the NDP that's keeping him there.
Okay.
That
would make sense.
They could have, like, certain pieces of legislation could be turned into issues of confidence, right? In fact, I think it was it Bill C-11, I think, became an issue of confidence. The Emergencies Act extension vote was going to be a vote of confidence, and then he backed off on it and rescinded the Emergencies Act because he didn't want to have to face it. That could have triggered an election right there. So those are the kinds of occasions, those are the things that can actually result in him being forced to call an election, essentially being removed from office through a vote of confidence. And if he loses it, then he has to go to the Governor General and say, hey, we need permission to have an election. I need to dissolve Parliament. So that's the way it works.
Great. Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I never actually followed politics until almost the last 2 years here, so I'm still kind of catching up on a lot of things. I still don't understand a lot, but the more I listen to you, the more I understand all the time. So I thank you for that. And I did listen to his brother, Trudeau's brother, the other night, and I definitely liked him. I think he should be the Prime Minister myself. Yeah, he's a very honest guy, and he's honest, and he speaks what he's telling. He basically was telling the truth. I mean, he's not lying, right?
Yeah. No,
So,
I really
good for him.
I like Kyle Kemper. I like him a lot. I think he's a very kind-hearted guy. I sense, and I'm like you. I think he speaks a lot of truth.
Yes, he does. He does. And as far as Biden goes, well, I'm sure you saw that episode where he kind of, I don't know if he fell asleep or he just didn't know what he was doing. He's in that chair. The most recent
mumbling. Oh my goodness, that was terrible.
It's getting worse every time he's out and about. I honestly don't think he'll make the next election.
Yeah.
I don't think he's mentally going to be capable much longer. It's just getting worse and worse. It's almost, it's really kind of sad in a way, it really is. I mean, I don't like the guy, but you don't like to see anybody going downhill like that either, right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
Right? Like I have a heart too, right? So,
yeah.
But anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I think that, people should have a right to protest if he's around, and they're going to anyways. But the language, and I don't know if he actually called him a Jew. That didn't sound to me like a Jew, but what he said there sounded like it more of a puke. But it's hard to say because it's so loud. There's so many people, right? All yelling, all different stuff.
Yeah.
And that one lady, oh my God, she was louder.
See, to
I mean,
me,
that's disgusting language.
To me, I think I heard the word Jew at least once. And so, I mean, that concerns me. If other people are hearing it differently, like I'm cool with that. It maybe isn't clear. Regardless, if that word was used in that way, I have real trouble with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, me too. So, but there was so much noise, and like you said, that one woman, I mean, her language was just, and there was like little kids standing behind her, and I don't know if they were her kids, but I mean, she was the loudest of them all, and it was like, I swear to God, I've heard her before at other protests with Trudeau.
Yes.
Just that piercing loudness. So, like you said, they do probably follow him around, but I mean, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. Go ahead, protest, but the language. I mean, you don't need to be calling the guy all these names. You know what I mean? Like I don't like Trudeau. But I certainly wouldn't stand there and shout obscenities to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
it's I was sort of tolerant of it for a while, but this repeated thing, it's happened too many times for me, and it's like we don't need to do that. The truth is enough.
No.
The truth should be enough.
Yeah.
To get us where we need to go.
Right. I believe that.
And
eventually, the truth will come out, and eventually this will be over. I just don't know when this will be over.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping before the next 2 years, before the next election, that something, we'll wake up one morning, there'll be news that he's stepping down. Then I think that it should be celebrated as, a happy day for Canada. We should all get the day off. Just a thought. But anyways, Rick, I know you have probably tons of followers here tonight on this. So anyways, that's my thoughts on how I feel about it. They can protest, but they don't have to be yelling and screaming the way they do.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the call, Chris. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Okay, let's move on. Here's Steve. Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm all right, thanks. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Go ahead.
I guess to answer your question there, I understand the passion that these people have when they're protesting against him. I think our responses in those situations need to be kind of measured. If he's not saying anything, those words make us look bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see her there, and I understand the sentiment, but we have an image. We're already slandered and portrayed as bad people in the media. So try to represent ourselves well and oppose him in a way that is acceptable for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Steve.
But I mean, I totally understand, how those people feel, and I understand why they're saying what they're saying for the most part.
Yep.
So, and I'm happy somebody's out there representing and showing that you have opposition and we're not going away. And in time, I hope we get, justice and get a better government. We deserve it. Canadians deserve a better government at all stages and levels. If you don't mind, I had another comment or two here I wouldn't mind bringing up.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had mentioned the public-private earlier, and I don't fully understand what that means or why they're doing it, but one of my thoughts about this right from the first time I heard it is it's kind of like why they use private armies, like Prigozhin's army, or who is it down in the States? BlackRock, I think, owns one or something. I can't remember. Anyway, I think that's, so the government can do its controlling, but because there's a business at the other end, they won't be subject to FOIA in the same way or public disclosures in the same way. They can hide some of the nastiness and the dirty business behind it, right? But so the government will be able to do things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Yeah.
I think that's why this huge shift is happening to this. And along that, in the same kind of vein, I started to kind of mention this the other night, but with regards to our political parties and how, like, the Conservatives seem to be virtually liberals now, and our liberals seem to be, I don't know, I like your term, communo-fascist, and I agree that's the way to word it. It shouldn't be the other way around, because I think it leans towards fascism more than communism.
Yeah.
So, but the dictatorship, like, for sure, is, I think he'd love nothing more than to be a dictator. But is this moving into a single party system? And I watch, I like watching some European news, as I've mentioned before, like the UK. And I've heard it now mentioned in the United States. I've heard it mentioned here in Canada. And this is in mainstream, all of this. So in the United States and Canada, the UK, Ireland, I think it was Spain, I heard the other day, there's a number of governments that are saying, the opposition and the party in power is becoming so close, maybe we could go to a one-party system. And that really concerns me, and I think the reasons are probably obvious. But I just wonder if this is like, the next PSYOP kind of thing. They'll just start feeding that into the media and having this question, and then, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a government shift to a one-party system from a two or a multi-party system.
So if we get that, though, I mean, there is no democracy at all at that point. There's one party means just right. So how?
Yeah, I mean, we might as well be in a dictatorship or a communist country at that point, as far as I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I just heard it on GBN News. That was a question brought up, and I was kind of surprised to hear it there. And I heard it on another British show, and I heard an American show talk about it as well for their country. So I heard two different news channels in the UK talk about it. I heard one in the United States. I'm sure I've heard it here. I just can't put my finger on where I heard it here. And I heard it mentioned, actually, I guess in Ireland, it wasn't mainstream. It was an alternative broadcast, but nonetheless, I heard it on the British one as well. And I think it was a British show commenting on, it was Spain or some other country. So that's 5. And I think there's been a couple others along the way before I started to clue into this. And I thought, why is this coming up? So I'm just wondering, is this something we're going to see down the road where they're pushing this and then some country actually goes for it? Just something to keep an eye on.
I'll take note. Hadn't really been hearing too much about that. I can't even see how that would work in any kind of democracy. So I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't see it. we're certainly moving from the democracies, and that's my fear, and I think that's why this is being brought up. And it's just some of the places I'm hearing it seems kind of odd, but at the same time, maybe that's their warning. Like GBN News doesn't seem like the place to hear that, but they brought it up. I almost wondered, is this kind of a warning? Like you're hearing this elsewhere and you're asking the question because you want people to be aware. I find that they're very balanced.
Yeah.
And actually, one just really quick last thing. Did WEF Ramaswamy? Did you know he's suing them because his picture was used on their website, and he did not give approval?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, she also had that complaint. People have said she's been there. She said she didn't give permission, and I'm going to balance that one because we know she's kind of conservative. Is it McCain, the guy with the eye patch? He's
oh no, that's
he's a Democrat.
No, he's a Republican.
I can't think of his. Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's kind of a
rhino.
rhino.
Sorry,
though.
he's a rhino.
He's a rhino.
Yeah, he's a rhino for sure. Anyway, apparently he's had the same complaint. So I guess is some legitimacy to these people that I'll be curious to see where this lawsuit goes. But I was happy to hear that somebody's actually taking action on it.
Well, I've noticed.
But he has a lot at
have
stake.
you noticed the way that Pierre Poilievre in Canada, leader of the Conservative Party, is now targeting Maxime Bernier, saying Maxime Bernier is with the World Economic Forum. He went to Davos. I never went to Davos. I'm not WEF. He's WEF. Have you noticed that?
Over and over and over. And, it really bothers me that both Poilievre and Trudeau define themselves by the other people. Trudeau always answers the question by saying, well, Poilievre is doing this, and Poilievre will either pick on Maxime or on Justin, and it should be embarrassing. Why can't you talk about yourself? But you're right, he does it over and over and over. But Rick, I have tried all kinds of things and realized I didn't like it, and I wouldn't have known I didn't like it if I hadn't tried it. So I don't fault Maxime at all for having been there. I would fault him if he kept returning or showed an interest. But to me, it was 15 years ago, and he doesn't seem to have an interest. I trust the man, and I believe that he is not interested in the WEF. And actually, I think he opposes it at this point because he knows the sentiment of the population.
Yeah, well, if
That's how I feel about
if he were to embrace anything WEF, I think his entire base of support would lynch him. So I just couldn't see it. But,
he has my vote. I mean, I'm certainly not voting for the other two. So if I'm voting, it'll definitely be for him. But I truly believe, I wouldn't fault anybody. I mean, I believe Tulsi Gabbard actually went, and she found it distasteful as well. She has a story about that. And, how would I know what something like? There's all kinds of clubs you might go to visit once and realize, oh, this isn't for me. Perhaps it's you go to a Baptist church and you want to try a Catholic church and you didn't realize it wasn't for you until you went there. Like I don't know. I don't have another example, but that's how you try something and then you learn if you like it or not. So
that's right.
I don't fault him for having been there 1 year.
Yeah,
I did it first.
It bothers me to see people instantly dismiss someone just because they may have gone, or maybe like.
And he doesn't hide it.
No.
Like he doesn't lie about it, or he never did. At least that I've ever heard, he didn't hide it. And as far as Poilievre goes, if his picture was there and was taken down, he would have been better off to own it. I mean, now at this point, he can never say, oh, he knew anything about it. But I hear a lot of people saying it. I've seen that image where, his picture looked like it was on their site. Maybe that was fake. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was there and taken down, as some have been.
I've seen that sent to me, and that was not actually on the WEF website. That was on a website about the WEF website. That's where that was. Now, there's another guy's that got another video out there that claims to use the Wayback Machine, and you can go and apparently find it. But I've tried that. I personally couldn't do it. I couldn't duplicate that. So I still don't know. But
and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it kind of for our government that Maxime had to go? Like he didn't say, "Oh, I really want to go. Can I go?" Wasn't it part of his job?
Yeah,
sort
he
of?
was part of the Harper
I'm not
government, and so they participate in these international forums, and he went because he was
Exactly,
part
yeah.
of the cabinet. So they all went. He
Right.
went.
Mhm. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know how he would have been able to get out of it. It would be like turning down an invitation to the UN probably, or something.
Yeah, it's like when your boss
Similar, but
says,
different.
you're going to go to this conference on, if you work in pick an industry and they've got some sort of a trade show on, you're going to this thing on Thursday. No, I'm not going. I'm opposed to it ideologically, and so screw you.
Yeah, that doesn't work. I can tell you that from experience.
Yeah. So it's the way it is.
I've had my hand slapped for turning down conferences, and I know somebody who wouldn't go to a conference saying that they wouldn't go to something that was that woke, and they get lost their job in the end.
Yeah.
So,
well, listen, sir, I'm going to sign off here. I've got Lori waiting in the wings. She's popped on. She seems to want to come on the
excellent.
show. She probably wants to talk about communofascism.
That ought to be interesting.
Yeah.
Enjoy
anyway.
your conversation with Lori.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
We'll
I'll
talk.
talk to you later.
Good night.
Okay. Okay. So I got to drop out of these calls for the moment. Well, let me bring up one. I can't. Okay. Here's Leo. Hello, Leo. How are you?
You got the marvelous Salted Man without a plan to master all disasters, Rick. Coming to you live from my garden as I pick them, listening. The nice thing about the Maverick community, you may like Kyle Kemper, but I don't.
Oh, hang on just a sec.
And I'll tell you why.
Hang on just a second, Leo. I've lost your screen. This is why it gets difficult when we're trying to do the phone sing with multiple people on the show. Here we go. Okay. I've got you back. Go ahead. You can talk now.
You got me back. Okay. Well, the
So-
nice thing about being a Maverick and part of the Maverick community is you may like Kyle Kemper, but I don't. Okay. And the reason behind it, okay, when he sits here on the air and talks about how he's been to all these places in the United States of America and everything else, okay, he's silver spoon fed for Margaret Trudeau, and her money came from where? Pierre Elliott Trudeau, which came from us, the taxpayers, at the end of the day. Okay. And he sits there and says, oh yeah, I've been all over the place, and now he's riding the big fancy bus, okay, and sitting down with RFK, okay, and promoting whatever he's trying to promote, but you're Canadian, so you have no business in the U.S. election. Period. Okay, now RFK may become the president of the United States. Hopefully he does, or Trump, either one of them. I'd be happy with either one of them. But to sit there and promote it all, okay, like he's a hardworking Canadian citizen, he's spoon-fed. And that's what I don't like about him.
Okay.
Right? And you can sit there and say, oh, I'm Justin Trudeau's brother. Yeah, whatever. As for Justin Trudeau, okay, look where we are in Canada today. Since 2015 or 16, when he was elected, the highest inflation rates, okay, in forever. People can't afford to go and buy groceries. Okay, I was at the grocery store today because tonight or tomorrow morning I'm headed to the East Coast. Okay.
Hang on. I lost your feed again here, Leo. Just a second. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. So you were talking about prices?
The prices of food, okay, just on food alone, was $3.99 for a head of broccoli, which was really not a head. When I got home, I did a little video on Facebook of me cutting my broccoli, and it was 3 times the size of what they had at the superstore. Right? People are getting gouged, especially in Ontario. Premier Doug Ford said, "Oh, anybody who gouges when the vid came out, you'll be held in court." Not one person's been to court over gouging or price inflating. Okay, and we're seeing it, and we have zero protection, consumer protection at all by the government. Okay, he's the reason the price of gasoline is the way that it is. He's the reason the housing crisis is where it's at. Okay, you're the commander in chief or CEO, however you want to call it, okay, of the country, and he's not taking any control whatsoever. He's letting it run rampant. When I'm in downtown Windsor and I'm going to drop my wife off, we're driving down Riverside Drive. There was a refugee crapping next to the Best Western, and the Best Western's where they stay. Crapping right on the lawn, Rick.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it. My wife did. She said, "Look at that." I said, "Oh my God, I wish I would have went Facebook Live on that one." Okay. So people are coming into this country. We can't afford to take care of our own, apparently, but we're going to take care of others. Now, you can't even get a room at the Best Western or the Holiday Inn in Windsor, Ontario. One's right on Riverside Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the best view in Southern Ontario is right there. Okay, and it's overrun by the refugees. That's where they've been putting them, on the backs of us taxpayers, right? So it's going to be funny to see when they do campaign, the Liberal Party, and they make it from town to town to town to town to town. Okay, you're going to see a lot more of what you're seeing in Bellevue. You know, I'm surprised, honestly. I'm surprised people are restraintful enough, because there's a lot of hate, a lot of deep hate, Rick, and something terrible hasn't gone on, like a guy on the grassy knoll type of deal.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very surprised it hasn't happened yet. You know, he can't even go to the corner store. You know, and it's pretty bad when his security says, "Hey, you can't come to this to Bellevue. It's too dangerous for you now."
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And as for Pierre Poilievre, okay, I'm not saying he's the right guy. When I seen a video, I don't know if you've seen it yet, Rick. It's out there, of the fella who went to the Conservative town hall meeting or whatever they're calling it, right? To see Poilievre, and he wore one of the "FU Trudeau" shirts, and they wouldn't let him in. Right? They wouldn't let him in because of his attire. You know, so Pierre Poilievre could say what he wants to say. I'm not saying it's right to be running around with FU shirts and this and that, right? But look where we are. Look where society is today. Right? People can't afford shit. But I am going to the East Coast in the morning. I just don't know how far east. I know I'm going to at least Nova Scotia, because I've never been to the Bay of Fundy, never been to the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm going to hurry up and get my swim in the Atlantic Ocean, because who knows when I'll be able to afford to go to the Atlantic Ocean again.
Well, that's exciting. So you're
And I'm
taking
gonna
some
get my
time to go on a bit of a trip. That's great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have to, right? I'm off for a couple weeks, and my son and my daughters are all going to be watching the animals here. So, you know, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to eat my fill of lobster. I'm going to bring my lobster back. I can keep eating my fill of lobster. But yeah, politically, Canada's a mess, buddy. It's a mess.
I agree.
You know, when I
Yeah,
see,
it's true.
I mean, you got Poilievre changing his face, his view, his look, the whole 9 yards, right? Be who you are.
Yeah.
You know, if I was running for Prime Minister of Canada and you're going to get the mouth of the South on the table, I'm not going to change from the mouth of the South. From day one, that's what you like and that's what you're voting for. That's what I would be till the end. I'll be the mouth of the South. Right? But these guys, they chameleon like lizards.
Yeah.
A chameleon. Okay. And once they're in, man, it's I don't know. All I know is that if Pierre doesn't say what he's going to say and he gets in as Prime Minister, all hell's going to break loose. You think it's bad for Trudeau? Watch for him. Because a lot of people lost hope and they figure he's the only hope. Right. And if they are disappointed with what he does, look out.
I hear you. Listen, sir, we're going to
God
move
bless
on.
the
I'm going to
news.
bring Lori in. She's still waiting in the back there. And I'm going to have to drop out of these calls. But I appreciate it as always.
All righty, Rick. Thank you.
Enjoy your trip, and hopefully we'll hear from you at some point during your travels.
For sure.
All right.
Adios.
Take care. And that's that. And there we go. Okay. So let's pull out of that. And let me just give me a second here, folks. I'm just going to run a little promo and then we're going to come back. And Lori will join us on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, let's do it. Let's bring her in. And here she is. Here's Lori.
Hello there, friend. How are you, Rick?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good. Enjoying a Sunday afternoon swim.
Oh.
Yeah, I got a swimming pool out my back door, and I've been using it today. Boy, it's 97 degrees with a heat index of, oh my God, 112.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, good day for the swimming pool. My hair's still a little wet, but I wanted to jump on and say hello and see how everybody's doing today on your Sunday. Man, we had a great show last night, didn't we? On Strange
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
It was good to have you there. I know it was supposed to be your night off, and then you came to work anyway.
Yeah.
You're the hardest working man in show business. You just never
Yeah.
take a break.
I am exhausted, actually, because I didn't get home until very late.
Yeah. It was a late night for me, too. I was up talking to our friend Kevin Michelizzi over in Crimea at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 10 a.m. their time, but 2 a.m. my time. So, yeah, I'm a little bleary-eyed myself today. But anyway, interesting conversation you guys had earlier. I'm still not sure what the heck, but you did a pretty good job of explaining.
Yeah.
It's like a hybrid of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I liked what Tyler said, though. He was like, if Justin Trudeau's a communist, I'm quitting the party.
That's right. Yeah, nobody wants the guy anymore, right?
What an interesting poll that. Very interesting. It's interesting to me that, Pierre still ranks so high in the hearts of Canadians.
He's
but
like,
Trudeau,
he's Canada's Kennedy.
I think he is. That's a really good comparison. And, I just heard Leo talking about Kyle Kemper. I've always looked at Kyle as Justin's hippie half brother.
Yep.
He's a total hippie. I had a chance to meet Kyle sort of in the Twitter space. We haven't met face to face, but we did a Twitter space together about RFK last week, and a really nice guy. So I was surprised when we had him on Maverick News the other night. I thought he was like a friend of the freedom movement. And wow, I was kind of shocked to see people in the chat room who really hate him. And I heard Leo saying just now, I was curious as to why. And I wondered if it was just because he's Trudeau's half brother, just being related to Trudeau was like a bad thing, or if it was because he's endorsing Kennedy, that they think he's gone woke liberal or something.
It's if you rewind a year ago, we had Kyle on the show, and the response was very positive.
I remember that.
Yeah, and now I brought him on. I was also surprised to see the negative comments. Yeah.
Well, I hope we didn't hurt his feelings. I hope he'll come back.
I'm sure he will.
I think he's a really nice guy.
Yeah,
I
I like
chatted
him.
with him for probably 5 hours, man. It was a long Twitter space, and we were the only two in the room on Team Kennedy defending Kennedy. So we were kind of teamed up for that match, working together, you know?
Well, it's nice to have at least one friend.
Exactly. That's the only friend I had on that panel.
Yeah.
But you know, Kyle, I know it's weird that he's a Canadian and yet he's going to all this trouble for Kennedy. He's got the Kennedy bus and he's been driving it all across America. You know,
I
he
don't think
told
it's
you.
that. I don't think it's that weird, but
You don't?
no, not really.
Huh.
Canadians are so Americanized, especially down here where I live, because we're not far from the border, right?
Sure.
Uh, we're bombarded with American culture, television, movies, everything. We're very Americanized. We're definitely not American, and there are differences as you go across the country culturally and socially. But what happens in the States has a huge impact on what happens here.
That's right.
We're so connected, right? So, of course, we have a vested interest in what goes on in the US. Of course, we're interested in US politics. A lot of people, you can see it in the chat, will sit here and say, why are you covering American politics? Get that, what? Just focus on Canada. Well, no, it's extremely important that we stay in tune with what's going on down there. And well, I don't think that it's appropriate to have foreign meddling in your elections.
Exactly.
I think that we certainly deserve to have a voice like any other country in the world, and maybe even more so because we are so closely linked. And so I don't
That's
think it's
right.
strange at all to see what Kyle Kemper is doing.
That's good to hear you say that. I agree. I think that, you know, I mean, obviously there are limits on how involved Canadians could get involved with the US elections. I mean, there are laws about that. You can't donate. Unfortunately, you can't buy merchandise. I've had a lot of Canadian Kennedy supporters ask me if they could buy a Kennedy t-shirt or a ball cap or something off the website. And it's like, no, you can't buy it directly from the website because of those laws. But, you know, Kyle, it's legal for him to volunteer to do this of his own accord, put his own money into it and do it just because he wants to. I mean, that's freedom, right? And that's what we're all about here at Maverick News. You know, I wanted to tell you, there's a new poll out, a new Harvard Harris poll. Bobby tweeted it out today, and it honestly kind of even took me back. I was amazed to see that he's leading the pack right now in this. And this is a major poll. This is a Harvard Harris poll. It's a favorability poll, like how people look at him. It's got 49% favorability in front of Trump. They're kind of neck and neck, which is what makes the poll very interesting. Biden was way down there at like, I don't know, 20 some odd percent.
Which is probably inflated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've never seen a president in my lifetime with so much artificially inflated popularity. They've been telling us that Joe Biden's a winner and the best president ever since 2020, and the people just don't seem to think so. So I question some of these polls, and yet I like this poll because my guy's ahead and he's leading Trump by 3 points. Trump's at 45%.
Yeah.
Kennedy's at 49. So I thought that was interesting. But I wanted to hop on here